Hey, I want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. I'm not sure how you found us, but I want to let you know that we have made it as easy as possible for you to find, follow, and share this podcast with as many people as possible. All you have to do is type in Community Solutions, and we're in the Apple iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, we're on Spotify, and as usual, you can find it out on YouTube or by going directly to podbabble.com, the great podcast network that we're part of. So go out there and go nuts, because the more that you share this information, the greater opportunity that you have to change your community. So thank you again for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
Common sense, you don't fool me. I'm just the money that you can't let free. Rainy day genius clouds your mind. Don't you realize the blind lead the blind? You're antisocial. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, coming at you, episode 63, I believe.
Well, spring is here. I got my first mosquito bite yesterday. So
Really?
I'm not going to complain, though. It's it's not 30 degrees out. It's not a foot of snow.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I can live with a mosquito bite.
I wonder if we'll have a lot of mosquitoes this year, because we didn't really have a long rainy season. It was snow and cold, and then all of a sudden it's like 60s.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we'll see.
Those
what
things
happens.
are good for nothing.
Yeah, well, that's about right. They're food for bats.
Don't want to starve bats. We need those. Bats only eat them at night, though.
Well, that's true. Which, that's helpful around a campfire or something like that.
True. I like it when they... Remember those old zapping things?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know if people have those anymore. And you'd hear them get zapped. Oh, that was great. That was a better sound than crickets, better sound than loons. It's hearing mosquitoes get zapped all night.
Well... Yeah, I guess now they use a lot of the citronella candles and the tiki torches and stuff like that to try and keep them away more than the bug zappers. But yeah, I remember that. It was the crackle of a nice-sized mosquito in one of those things. It just kind of made you smile, knowing that was one less mosquito that was going to bother you.
No kidding.
Oh. Oh boy! Mother's Day is coming up. This is, happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, and don't say that we don't appreciate you.
Before it becomes Parents' Day or something like that.
Right.
Before we change it.
Right.
Yeah, the moms of the world, they're important every day, but especially on that day. Always coincides with opening fishing. I'm not going to the opener this year. I am foregoing that.
Wow.
On the 19th, I will be gone, so going up to Grand Rapids very soon.
Yeah.
To God's country. And I hope to check out Facebook or something. If I catch a big one, I'm sure I'll put it out there. But,
well, maybe opener, you and I should just, wander over to Medicine Lake or Eagle Lake or something and get on a fishing dock. And
that's a possibility. I'll tell you what, if the docks are out, they're not out at Medicine yet.
Right.
But in Minnetonka, they fish on shore. I nearly knock people over if I ever drive out there.
Yeah,
they're not too car conscious sometimes over in those windy roads in like Deep Haven.
No, well, they're very narrow roads, and it's funny how they operate out in Deep Haven. They have never had like a true like sewer system. They're not like on the Met Council's taxing district as far as that goes. Thank you, you guys. I know to put in something, really good, state of the art, that it would take a lot of money. I know it floods out there. You probably would like to do something, but if you guys can figure out how to do that on your own, not become...
It probably floods, but I'm sure they use the lake as a runoff the way...
They do, but there is a lot of flooding in yards and on streets and all that, but the lake is a runoff, and that's eventually where it all heads. So, I don't know. It's how much freedom do you want,
Hey, if they're not on the Met Council, maybe that's where... We should all consider moving.
Exactly. Everybody out to Deep Haven now. Minnetonka.
Wouldn't mind high-density housing if we didn't have to Met Council.
Yeah, it's true. We're going to be talking a lot about the Met Council today. Yes. Oh, you're going to love this.
Yeah, you're going to think it's good news. I'm going to make the case it's a disaster. You don't 100% agree with me on that. I think it's really bad.
I think it is bad. I think that I'm just trying to find the silver lining in it.
Well, think about that. You're going to take a while to figure out the silver lining when we get to what is being proposed, because I think it's going to have the opposite effect than what it's intended.
Right.
But Jay, we got to start with what's going on. I don't live too far from Ridgedale.
Right. So we're going to mention this in the Local Lowdown section today. Minnetonka has a grand plan for Ridgedale, don't they?
Yeah, we can thank Alpha News for this. They're the ones that kind of dug up so I'm at alphanewsmn.com. The title of the article is Social Engineering in Minnetonka, ? City plans to modernize Ridgedale area. Now, Jay, modernize is code words.
Yes.
Code words for
mixed use,
high density transit, biking, walking.
Yes. Interconnected paths. Yes. All of it.
Yeah.
Greenways.
You name it. Yes. Complete streets, roundabouts. That is exactly what's being planned over by Ridgedale. It is a vision for 2035.
2035. That's coming up.
Now let me ask you a question. Well, 2035. How old will I be? That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
See, I'll be 58. Let me ask you what is wrong with Ridgedale as it is? Now, I go there not often, but it's the closest big shopping center to where I live. If you think of Mall of America, Northtown, the big one,
Southtown, Eden Prairie Mall,
big one out in
that's it,
Maple Grove or Albertville. There's something big out there. Ridgedale's far and away the closest to me. And basically, the concept behind this is that it is just not modern. We have too much driving going on. We have too much freedom. We have too many people coming from too far away. And the city has the Ridgedale area vision.
Ooh.
They want to include 3 roundabouts to slow traffic and focus access points.
Oh, boy.
So is that like your sight line when you're driving or something, the access point?
I don't know what that is. Well, no, access points would be like how you get into it. That's like to get into the mall area. They want to manage the traffic coming in. Think about when we made that video about Wayzata. Remember when you and I visited Wayzata?
Yeah, right by Lake Minnetonka.
How they managed the access points into downtown. We went around that. We went in.
Yeah, there was a dead end.
We couldn't get in, and then we had to go back all the way around and use this roundabout to get into the downtown area. That's what they're talking about.
Okay, but how do you do that with a huge mall? I mean, how do you restrict? They're basically making the case to restrict access. That's what happened in Wayzata. And you got one path to get there, one path to get out.
Right, and I don't know that they'll make it one.
We're talking about 3 here.
Right, because if you think, over on the east side of the mall, you've got like some. They're two-way streets, right? That frontage road that kind of goes around the outside of the mall. That once you turn off of,
well, you got Plymouth Road on the west,
right?
And I can't remember what road is on the east, but there's two places.
Isn't it Ridgedale Drive?
Yeah, I think so. If you're going 394 west, it goes Hopkins Crossroad, then it goes Ridgedale Drive, then it goes Plymouth Road. But I don't think on Hopkins Crossroad you can access.
No, that's
Ridgedale.
too far east.
So you really only have two spots, and the mall is south of 394. Now, when you go on Ridgedale Drive, you go underneath 394, and there's a stoplight to turn left. Then if you keep going, there's another place to get in with the library on your left, and then it goes up to Plymouth Road where Champs is in that area. So there's basically three ways to turn off, and I don't really see, I have to admit this, that I don't see the need to tear down. Is that where they're going to tear the stoplights down and build roundabouts?
I don't know. It would have to be because
they
won't
inside the
do
parking lot.
No, they won't do that. I bet that it will be on the south side of 394 in that area. You'll have one further south of that on the south side of the mall, and then you'll have one over on the east side of the mall. I would guess, because you've got that road on the south side where you've got some restaurants and all of that along that territory.
Well, I mean, this is the plans are to modernize the area by reconstructing Plymouth Road to Interstate 394. So that's just what we mentioned, to include 3 roundabouts, to significantly increase the amount of high-density housing, discourage segregated areas of land. So is that where we've got white people living on one side and black people living on the other? We got segregated land. And encourage sustainable the S word, Jay, your favorite.
Your favorite.
Walking, biking, and reliance on public transport. The exact opposite of what we should be doing. That we're getting them to rely on government, which is the wrong way to go about this. The mixed-use apartment building at 1700 Plymouth Road was the city of Minnetonka's catalyst project. The project is considered the city's goal for the rest of the developments in the entire Ridgedale area, mid-rise, mixed use. They do use public transportation to run their errands. Yeah, right. Whatever. You move out to Minnetonka to take public transit? The public... This is another critical thing. They kind of blanketly state this. The policy basis for the area will focus on aspects of increased density in incentives, i.e. your tax dollars, for redevelopment, sidewalks, and traffic calming. Yep. I'm sorry, it's a mall.
Yeah.
It is a huge mall.
I'm pretty sure that...
Do you want customers?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that there are speed limit signs that say 10 miles an hour. How much more calm do they need to make it?
Yeah, you can bike a lot faster than that.
But, I mean, and if you're looking at the roads that are outside of the mall complex to access the mall complex, yeah, those are a little faster. But, I mean, it's not anything. But this isn't anything new. I mean, it's all about reducing speeds when we're looking at like Vision Zero, where they want to get to zero pedestrian deaths. So, by putting in roundabouts, by putting in, biking and walking trails and all of that, and of course they want them segregated. That's where they actually do want segregation. They want to make sure that those are as removed from traffic as possible, that, that's going to calm traffic because A, you'll have fewer people driving, and B, you're going to have more people.
So we're going to have more people walking around. That's going to result in fewer pedestrian deaths.
Yep.
Seems to me like the more people who are walking around, the more chances are, the more of that you're going to have. Not that I'm wanting that.
No.
But you take a busy mall, okay, and you put twice as many people out there walking around. Yeah. Half of them are on their stupid cell phone. Half of them, their kids are running around. They're carrying bags. If we're to be believed that people do their shopping and walk and take who those people are, I've never met.
Right.
But, who's going to do their Christmas shopping by walking?
Right.
I mean, you might click something on the internet, but I mean, and you've got trucks coming in that are delivering product to these stores.
And that mall is busy.
Yeah, it's darn right it is.
That's not a dead mall by any stretch of the imagination.
No, if anything, it's on the upswing. I mean, especially because if you look at that area from on the west side of the cities, from Southdale up to Maple Grove or Albertville, it's the only mall over there of any size.
Right.
So, it's not, people come from all over to access that mall.
Right.
So it makes no sense.
So what they're proposing is not just with the mall and the mall area itself. The mall has just kind of undergone some renovations there. So that's kind of all new. Now I think they want to control how people are getting in and out of the area, but they're also wanting to build a bunch of mixed-use development where you have the shops and you have apartments above shops, and some of those can be, 7, 8, 9 stories or whatever. I mean, that doesn't
St. Louis Park. Look at downtown St.
absolutely.
Louis Park.
Look at it there. Look
Isetta,
at
that video we're talking about.
Edina, right around the Southdale.
All taking the sub out of suburb.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna. This is the new urbanism. This is the everybody the cookie cutter approach. No matter where you are, this is what we're going to push. We don't care what you want. We don't care what's been there for 100 years. We don't care who's in office. We're going to push this. And I want to know. I think the city of Minnetonka's got to, take some accountability for this. I mean, who is really behind this? Who is really the people pushing this?
Right. Well,
we know the city council didn't dream this up. We're not going to give them that much credit.
No. Obviously, it's in their comprehensive plan. That's the first place that you got to go to see, what they're looking to do. They may not specifically call it out, but they might. They obviously have a master plan for this project. They have a couple other planned projects already around that area. If you look at the city of Minnetonka's website, they're already planning a Ridgedale active adult apartments. Now, I don't know if that's supposed to be for older adults, like assisted living, or if that's like for, I don't know, active adults. People that want to walk to Ridgedale.
They got enough mall walkers around there.
And then another executive apartment building, this one around Ridgedale as well. So that, is just two of the projects that they're currently planning on to move in that direction. And keep in mind, they want this by 2035. They got to start putting some of those projects into planning right now. And so that's two of them that they're planning.
And keep in mind, look for TIF districts to be created. Look for the same developer or two to be involved in every single one.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at who their campaign contributions are going to.
Yep. And it's funny. I mean, you look at, the public wants more information on this kind of stuff, obviously. But instead of saying, hey, here's what we're planning, I mean, they have that. But back in 2012, I mean, they were planning this back in 2012. They did the Ridgedale Village Center study back in 2012. And instead of, going to the public and saying, hey, here's what we're thinking of doing, they have these cute little postcards with pictures from somewhere else in America that makes it look good. And so let me just read these quick. It says, "Hello, sis. I just met an old teacher who I had in high school. She's now living in a fancy new apartment in Ridgedale Center. She looks great and seems to have an active life, even though she's getting on in years. She walks everywhere, and Caribou Coffee is right downstairs next to a fabulous Indian restaurant. She still has a car, but bikes everywhere to get her groceries at Byerly's. A couple blocks away. She could even take the express bus to downtown Minneapolis in 15 minutes.
She
Love ya.
Bikes to get her groceries.
By
the way, on Minnetonka's website, there's 120. This vision for 2035 Ridgedale is 122 pages long.
Yeah.
And they have they have a before. They go back to 2009. I'm sure this is the 2030 plan. I'm sure the 2040 is being updated as we speak.
Right.
But they have what it looks like now to what they want it to, and you can see the huge differences in the high density mixed use realm and all the infrastructure changes that they want to make.
Right.
So, and it's all about, multimodal trails, sidewalks, traffic calming. I mean,
absolutely. That's what it is. And then they try to sell it to the public through propaganda, like what I just read. I mean, there's 4 of these. I mean, here's another one. Hello, sis. You remember the library? Really cool then. Even better now. You can stroll along a boardwalk next to the pond. Next time I'm going to bike here with the kids because you can use a wide green parkway. There's a great new YMCA park at restaurants. Next time I'm here, I'll try the W Hotel right in the middle of Ridgedale. The views from the upper floors must be spectacular. Love ya. And it's funny. I didn't even look at these postcards. What did I mention? Greenways.
Who writes a postcard like that?
Yeah, exactly.
First off, you don't write postcards anymore. You email somebody, or
yeah.
They've got all this information too on Generation X, Generation Y, and shifting housing lifestyle preferences.
But here's the thing. They're going to restrict parking as well, and which is going to make it harder for we talked about how full and how busy Ridgedale is, right? I mean, how do you think it will go if they take away parking?
Well, I think they're going to have a lot less customers.
Right.
I mean,
let me read one more of these.
But
yes.
Jay, remember one thing, too. Just because I live next to Ridgedale to do my shopping doesn't mean that's where I work.
Right.
So what if I work in Bloomington and live in Minnetonka?
I can't wait to carry a big screen TV 6 blocks home from Sears to my my apartment on the 12th floor of.
But I mean, it is a fallacy that people are going to sell their cars and move into stuff.
No, and they try to make it look like older people want to walk, which they don't. They like to walk short distances.
Can barely walk.
They like to walk maybe short distances, some of them, but there's a lot of them that can't, Let me read one more of these to prove they're going to take away parking. This isn't just me conjecturing.
Let's read one more, and I can't listen to a fourth.
Hello, sis. I know
you have a sister.
I don't.
Yeah.
I have sister-in-laws, but I don't have a sister. I know we grew up here, but wow, things have ever changed in Ridgedale. I just got back from a concert on the Green, which I remember as a big parking lot between Sears and Benny's. Tomorrow, we're going back to see a movie at the Ridgemont Cinema. Right next door, there's a great outdoor French cafe overlooking a beautiful pool of water that is a skating rink in the winter. I think Sears Auto Store used to be there, but who cares about putting them out of business? Oh, wait, that's not what it says, but it's hard to remember now. Love, Terry.
Terry. With an I or with a Y?
It's unbelievable. These are just great. So we're gonna take Sears Automotive out. We're gonna take parking out. Or we're getting rid of business. We're getting rid of parking. Don't come to Ridgedale unless you're walking or biking. That is the message that they're trying to send you.
And again, look for your tax dollars to subsidize this. Look for your tax dollars to be spent on this.
The clue is they're saying Ridgedale Village Center Study. They want to create a little village around Ridgedale where they think that only people from that area that live in the mixed use, in the big high-density housing, are the only people that are going to go use it, except for a fringe few. They'll leave a couple of parking spots, as a token, and it's ridiculous.
Well, remember,
they're going to put the whole area out of business.
Hillary Clinton says it takes a village.
Yeah,
and I know she's supposedly writing a new book. I guess her old book did well. I think it's called The Old Testament. But I mean, it's
yeah.
Look for this everywhere. I mean, look.
Oh yeah,
I've said this before. What do you want to bet if I looked up the plans for Northtown Mall, or if I looked up the plans for Southdale? Mm-hmm. I know it exists in Edina to do stuff like that.
Oh, my word.
They've high density that like crazy.
And they're not done. We'll talk about that some other time.
Yeah, but. I mean, and there's big malls out in the Maplewood area out there.
Mm-hmm.
I bet
Rosedale.
I bet you're going to find the same stuff. Clearly, this is an agenda that the city didn't come up with. This is coming down from, likely from a place we're about to talk about.
Well, that's true. Because, I mean, we're talking about comprehensive plans, Every municipality has to submit it to the Met Council every 10 years. Met Council has to give their stamp of approval, and then once that happens, then they can move forward with the plans. And because of the housing projections, the population projections, it's like, here's how many units of high density you need to build. Here's the kind of things that you need to zone for. Here are, you need to build the walking trails. You need to build the biking trails. You need to allow for transit.
You got a master plan to connect this trail 50 miles away that nobody uses.
Yeah. So, needless to say, I mean, we can't go over the entire Ridgedale vision for 2035 in this podcast because it would take us a long time. But I want to, dig into this a little further, and we'll probably come back with some more news for you on this. But you need to be aware that this is happening, and it's in motion. And the only way to really stop it is to get onto the advisory commissions and get into the Minnetonka City Council and just start
do the locomotion. That's how we.
I just want to say for a second. I know we sound like we're against a lot of stuff. We're really not. If a community is for something and it makes sense in a community, by all means do it. I mean, if you think that the people that live there think that there might need to be a bike path somewhere or a walking path somewhere or whatever, that's different than a centralized regional planning organization telling you, here's the stuff that you need and this is how you have to create your city. It's a huge difference, I
think that's true. At the same time, I'd like to see cities do what's in their charter.
Absolutely.
And dealing with their priorities and their needs, not their wants. Now, you are going, and that's where again you mentioned every community's different. Some communities might be like, look, we want this big park here, or we want this swimming pool. We're willing to subsidize X amount of money for it, and some communities aren't. And again, the people best equipped to make that decision are the elected people in that area, not city staff, not the finance guy, not the community development person. They're supposed to do what they're told.
That's exactly
so. Again, it's a two-pronged thing. Who's coming up with the policy? The councils are supposed to come up with the policies. The manager or the administrator who's employed by the council is supposed to execute the policies in accordance with all the administrative heads.
Right.
And we don't see that. We see the opposite all the time. We see outside firms coming in and doing the same thing they did in the previous place they were at. You see 2 or 3 builders dominating an area.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen by accident. So, yeah, I mean, it does seem like we do a lot of crabbing and whining, but I think that so many don't get the problem that it becomes incumbent upon us to, keep coming up with examples that are backing up the things that we've been saying for the past year and a half.
Right. And as we transition here, we're going to go into explaining why this needs to be that way, because we kind of just did allude to it with the city staff running things in cities. That kind of brings us to the Met Council and why they do what they do. And there's currently some legislation being floated around. Representative Jason Lewis out of CD2 here in Minnesota started it to try and make it so that the Met Council is like, let me back up a moment. So there are like 408 metropolitan planning organizations across the United States. 407 of those metropolitan planning organizations are made up of elected people from cities or some combination of that with appointed people.
Some, like Portland, are directly elected.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you have 407 of them that are made up like that. You have one where it's fully appointed by the governor of the state, and that's our Met Council.
Yeah, let me say something, too. What Representative Lewis offered is an amendment to what's called the Aviation Administration Authorization Act of 2018. Basically, he's saying because the Met Council is appointed, they're out of step with federal law.
Yes.
Which, in a technical sense, he's right.
Absolutely.
But it's been around for 51 years. And, this is why I say the federal government makes threats all the time. They never really follow through with them.
Right.
So basically his amendment would force a change in how the council is made up. Now, that sounds good, Jay.
Right. It's being done to comply with the current law, and that's why the 407 other regional planning or metropolitan planning organizations are set up that way. The Met Council is the only one that was grandfathered in, not having to do it that way.
Right. And I would say, too, it proposes a provision that would require a majority of the members to be elected officials.
Right.
So if there's 21 of them, 10 of them don't have to be.
Right.
I mean, just to put this in perspective
exactly.
of what is actually being proposed.
And as a conservative, or libertarian, it seems like it would be good to have taxation with representation. It seems like it would be a good thing to, Met Council as taxing authority. It would be great if they were accountable for the decisions that they made. But we're going to argue that that's not really the right solution. It's not that taxation without representation is good. It's bad. But what we're proposing, I think, is not the best solution either.
Well, Benjamin Franklin once said, taxation with representation isn't so great either. But let me just say something first off, just to backtrack. I'm a fan of Congressman Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay. I go back 20 years listening when he was a local radio guy on AM 1500 and then became syndicated, then ran for Congress. So I'm in no way a Lewis hater or whatever you want to call somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's done a good job so far. As if I lived in CD2, I would vote for him. However, there are many problems with the Met Council, too numerous to enumerate on this here program. This is one show here, okay?
That's right.
We talked about the problems with the Met Council. I mean, people would get hand grenades and throw them at us because we'd be talking too much. Okay, so one problem with the Met Council is how the makeup of the council is.
Mm-hmm.
However, what he is proposing, okay, that other elected officials from the 7-county metro serve on the Met Council, to me, makes things almost worse, if you can believe that. Now, hear me out. Okay, the first thing you have is a massive conflict of interest that you and I have talked about over and over when people...
Absolutely.
We had the same problem with the County Transit Improvement Board. They get elected in one place, then they get appointed to another, and there's another bucket of money for them to go spend and spend and spend and spend. And again, you can't serve two masters. I live in Plymouth, Jay, okay? If I were the mayor of Plymouth and then I was appointed, who decides who gets appointed on this, by the way, too? I get appointed onto this council. How do I represent Plymouth and represent the region? Okay, you can't work for McDonald's and Burger King. You can't work for the Yankees and the Red Sox. You have to pick somebody that you're going to represent. So we aren't picking the if me living in Plymouth, what if nobody from Plymouth gets appointed to this?
Right.
Tell me then how I'm represented.
Yeah, you're not.
So,
and chances are, I mean, Plymouth is a bigger city. I guess you maybe stand a chance of getting somebody.
You got 190. You got 189 cities in the 7-county metro, Jay.
All right.
There's not going to be 189 people on this council.
Oh, no. If you live in Shoreview, you're probably not going to get represented. If you live in Sunfish
Hilltop.
Lake, you're definitely not going to get represented. Lilydale, you're out. And there's a lot of other cities that you're probably just not going to have that representation. You're going to have somebody from Brooklyn Park represent you, or you're going to have somebody from
be in a
St. Louis
different
Park
congressional district.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I mean, so you have that inherent conflict there. Now let's examine another part of this. The Met Council spent 51 years beating up on cities, counties, getting them to comply, lobbying the legislature, expanding their powers. There's so many city councils. These are part-time people that are not going to challenge the basic Met Council premise.
Right.
That trust me, anybody who does is not getting appointed to this.
Yeah. No,
okay?
That's not happening.
It'll end up with people like Jake Spano on it, people like Peter McLaughlin, people like Mike Opat.
Yep.
People from New Hope, if they can stay awake long enough to be on this board. That's who's going to be appointed to this. And they'll put a token Republican like Jeff Lundy on there, who's, to me, I can't think of anything he's conservative on. And I got some flack because I lived in Champlin. I refused to vote for him for state senate. He lost by a very small majority, and I stand by it. That guy's no better than a Democrat. So to put a token person or two control the appointments of 49%.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you add to it, I'm going to take this a step further because Mr. Lewis's press secretary said something very telling here because Lewis has made it clear that he is not going to interfere in the big government policies or anything like that. Quote, our amendment does not seek to change the operations or scope of the Met Council.
Which is really the problem.
Right. And they could force changes. I'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
It does not attempt to change the activities of the board. It simply requires that for the board to be in compliance, they have to have locally elected representation like every other MPO in the country. So, translation to that, they can still do every single thing they're doing. They're going to have power over every comprehensive plan. They're going to run transit, jam it down your throat. We know the rules aren't fair. They're going to push high-density housing. They're going to push social justice and things like that. All we're doing is rearranging the deck chairs for who's going to serve on it.
And that's the thing. I mean, as far as appointees go, who's going to set the appointees? Who's going to choose the elected people, and who's going to select the appointees? Are they going to be the same people that are on the Met Council now? Are they going to be city staff members? You could appoint city managers or city planners to this thing.
They serve in other capacities all the time.
All the time.
I mean, they serve on
League of
partnerships,
Minnesota Cities,
West Metro Fire Board, watersheds sometimes appoint their public works person to serve on that. We've seen that everywhere. So you're basically taking the same monster and you're kind of like cutting their pinky finger off.
Yeah.
Like that's some sort of... And I am stunned at how many people are praising this. I mean, how I stumbled onto this was everybody on Facebook and on Twitter just hailing this as some sort of monumental day. It's like the right to vote we got, or it's like prohibition ended. That this is some grand thing, and I'm scratching my head, going, "What are you people thinking?" Now, there are things that the federal government can do and can't do.
Right.
I mean, remember that this is a creation of the legislature.
Yes.
Okay, so the legislature, which allegedly has a party in control of it that doesn't like the Met Council, but they never follow through on anything whatsoever. Republicans have pretty much run the House of Representatives my entire adult life.
Right.
And they've done nothing to rein this entity in. No. Despite all their promises. all the Tea Party meetings, all the liberty debates.
Right.
I mean, do you believe that if we have a Republican governor and a Republican House and Senate, the Met Council will be eliminated? Do you believe that for a second?
Nope.
I don't believe it unless I was the governor.
I don't even know.
I were the governor, I would do it. But
we haven't seen a single bill yet by a Republican House and a Republican Senate to reduce the scope and operations of the Met Council, and they've been there in power for the last 2 years.
Well, and I would even add that every bill seems to be designed around representation.
Yeah.
There's almost no bills on, like you said, the scope, what they're doing, getting this back to its original intent,
right?
Which is water and sewer. And even that, I still don't think we need a regional body to do. Maybe a county one, maybe an intra-county one because of the Mississippi River and things like that. But well drilling, we can go back to that we were doing back in the 50s and 60s. Nobody was dying from...
No, and we talked about this. I mean, what if, there needs to be repairs to a road that goes in between two cities, or, say a dam in the Mississippi that's between, two counties, or whatever, I hate to tell you this, but, the Met Council should not be the arbiter of those things. I mean, you could have an ad hoc group where they come together for the sake of a project. It lasts for one meeting and they get their plan together, or it's a 6-month thing where they have a series of meetings and they get their plan and they put the project into motion, and at the close of the project they close down the ad hoc group. I mean, there's nothing that stops cities and counties and groups like that from talking to each other and working together, but to have like a standing group, I mean, you're only giving them something. They're looking for stuff to do because they exist, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's the truth of it.
They have to justify their own existence.
Exactly.
Well, and if you want to get into what can be done at a federal level, okay, because once again, Jay, I mean, we are community solutions here.
Yes.
So I'm going to propose some things that Congressman Lewis and the rest of the Minnesota delegation. I mean, where's Tom Emmer and where's Eric Paulson and where was John Klein or Michelle Bachmann? I mean, where were these people on this issue? Yeah. You have the 1962 law, which created MPOs. Congressman Lewis could propose to repeal that.
Yeah.
If he really wants to fix this, that's the avenue to take.
Yes.
Okay. I would add that the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they can all go into the private sector and find a real job. Housing and urban development is not a federal issue.
No.
It is not an issue. Washington cannot solve housing development problems in Minnesota.
Right.
That's Minnesota's job. You can... And again, they're the people who control the checkbook. You can say, look, we either do some reforms or you're not getting paid.
Right.
They could strong arm this. We supposedly, there's majorities in the House and Senate to reduce the size of government. Haven't seen that yet, but that's what these people campaigned on. Maybe not so much the president, but I don't think anybody. I don't think of him as a small government conservative, but I mean, it's all talk that they're going to do this. They could rein in the Department of Transportation and the Department of Energy. They all have hands in this stuff too. But the Department of Energy hasn't done anything since 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
Except get in the way. So there's plenty that the congressman can do if he's really looking for a solution here. And there's plenty that our friends here in Minnesota can do as well. And I'll tell you what really worries me. What worries me is the second that the makeup of this council is changed, the steam for changing it or getting rid of it I fear is going to come to a halt because
Me too.
Because people are going to say, "Oh, you wanted elected people on it. You got it now.
Yep.
So quit your complaining."
Yep. That's the best way to disperse an angry mob is to give them something.
Right. Give them 10% of what they want. Give them 25% of what they want.
And here's the thing. If you're in Minnesota, greater Minnesota, and you think, oh, I don't have anything, to worry about here. I don't live in the metro. This is a Met Council problem. No, there are 5 of these in Minnesota. We have the Metropolitan Council. We have one between Duluth and Superior, Wisconsin. There is another metropolitan planning organization, Roger Olmsted. You have the North Mankato Area Planning Organization, and you have the St. Cloud Area Planning Organization. So
Mankato and North Mankato have their own organization?
Yes. Yes, they do. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know why you need to...
Can't North Mankato and Mankato just get Windows 95 and talk to each other about things they want to coordinate?
95. Yeah. They.
What do they need a separate board for? That's probably all getting paid. Mm-hmm. Probably have staff.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they need that for? My guess is that they're lobbying, Jay.
Yeah.
My guess is it's all about going to the state and trying to get free money for that area.
Probably.
If I had to guess at what they're doing.
And this is a thing.
I don't even know. That's how brilliant we are. We don't even have to look it up.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. These are all metropolitan planning organizations, fall under the federal law. And Minnesota also has, all of the states have regional planning organizations. Minnesota has 10 of those which fall outside of the metropolitan planning organizations. Those are not mandated by federal law, but they still serve the same functions and use the same documents and planning strategies that these metropolitan organizations use.
Well, of course, they're all getting their information from the same place. But let me propose a question. I always hear, well, you can't get rid of the Med Council because you can't receive federal funds. Do you believe that?
No.
I don't believe that either. This is the same federal government. How long have we been threatening sanctuary cities for?
Right.
Illegal aliens are getting Social Security checks. The idea that who have we ever cut off funding? We're still paying North Korea and Iran. Who have we ever cut off money to?
That's true.
I just don't buy that.
We're still supporting Germany and Japan to some extent.
The Marshall Plan is still in place. I mean, but just tell me, what federal funds are we losing exactly by not having? Are you telling me that Highway 94 is just going to deteriorate and collapse if we don't have a Met Council? Are you telling me it's all about transit money?
Yep.
It's about subsidies. It's about Section 8.
High density affordable housing,
I mean, that's what they want the money for. We don't need it, but they want the free dough.
No, it's the Federal Transportation Association. It's the Department of Urban Housing and Development.
So to me, I mean, I would welcome that, and I would challenge whether the federal government's really going to do this or not. Like, I've told my opinion on gambling. You want to build a little Vegas in Minnesota? Just do it. What are they going to do? Come over here and arrest us? Just do it.
And this is where I worry about
sports
it a little
betting.
bit.
Just do it.
But this is where I worry about it a little bit. And this gets into the preemption battle, is where, then you're going to have localities that are like, well, we want to enact gun control, so we're just going to do it. We want to have minimum wage, so we're just going to do it. And it's something that can come back to burn us as well.
I get that end of it, but to me, it quadruples the work we're doing. Mm-hmm. It makes the work we're doing even more and more and more and more important. Mm-hmm. That the government closest to you is the most important.
Yes,
and it goes off after that. Now, look, I'm not advocating anarchy. Okay, I'm advocating everybody following the Constitution, following their city charters. Statutory cities are supposed to follow state guidelines.
Yep, have fun.
They're not supposed to make things up as they go.
No.
So we need people in elected office that have that mentality, that aren't whining and crying about the state government won't do what we want, so we're just going to do it ourselves.
Right.
I think that the Met Council is such a big issue. It's not. I don't view it as the same as a city enacting minimum wage. Here you have a monster organization that affects every angle of life.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a government, you have a state government, and you have people we send to Washington who won't do a damn thing about it. They can do something, they don't want to, they don't want to take it on. I don't get it. I think that if the Republicans ended the Met Council tomorrow, they would be cheered.
That's
I think
the
they
thing.
would.
Yeah.
I think they would be. I think we'd create a. I think we would turn Minnesota red by doing that. I think the fact that they don't do it, the fact that they say they're going to and don't, they don't have any credibility. Nobody believes. And I'm going to say this straight out. I've heard governor candidates say this, and I don't believe them.
Mm-hmm.
I have no reason not to, because I'll just. I don't want to pick on Jeff Johnson, but he's been the most vocal about it. He's not in the legislature. I mean, but he was. I don't recall a bill with his name on it to end the Met Council.
Yeah.
Maybe it was there and I don't know about it, but, I heard this the last time.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it from people like Marty Seifert, who I like. I heard it from people like, David Hann, who ran before. And I'm like, well, okay, you guys were there. David Hann was the Senate Majority Leader.
Yeah.
So, I don't buy that this is going to happen. Even with the Republican governor, I don't believe it. And the Libertarians, if they screw their heads on straight, stop talking about smoking pot and start getting on real issues like this, they could make a lot of headway.
Yeah.
Because there's a enthusiasm for. I just feel it's kind of like 1981 when President Reagan came out and the air traffic controllers strike. Said, you know what, you either go back to work or you're fired.
Yeah.
Okay, I guarantee you there were people around Reagan telling him not to do that.
Yeah.
No, that you can't do that. No, you can't be bold like that. Let me tell you something. People all over this country stood up and cheered it.
Yes.
It's like, get your butts back to work. Don't give us this, we're not just blindly supporting you because you're a union. I'm sure when he went and said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, there were people telling him not to do it.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact there weren't. And to me, if the Republicans would all stand up and say, we are not going to fund this, or if we do, we are going to get some concessions for it, like reducing maybe incrementally try to dismantle it.
Yeah.
I think people would be so happy.
There is a political will right now. I mean, you guys want to win election? Start putting some bills forward. It doesn't matter if they get vetoed by Governor Dayton. It really doesn't. It matters that you're doing or trying to accomplish the things that you said you were going to do. But you can't control the governor. Just keep doing it.
But Jay, this is just it. Where is this in negotiation? When you're sitting here negotiating a budget, okay, the Met Council has been absent from that.
Yeah.
It's been totally absent from it. First off, the governor's outmaneuvered everybody.
Right.
I don't want to give him credit because it sounds like I am. Now, the governor has a line item veto, too.
Right.
I mean, they have a little bit more power than, say, the president does in that respect.
Right.
But we're seeing it right now. We're seeing all these omnibus hodgepodge bills being thrown together at the last minute. There's 20 things in them, violating the Minnesota Constitution, I might add.
Right.
20 things in them. 12 of them are good. 8 of them suck. What do you do if you're a legislator? Now, I know what I'd do.
Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
That's what I do. You're not buying me with some project in my neighborhood.
No.
But I know what the political expedience is. Well, they want to get out by Memorial Day. They better get. They want a barbecue, boy. They better get this done.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they've been doing for the past 3 months, but it is frustrating not to see this. It's frustrating to not see what so obviously would be the Republicans in Congress tomorrow. Got rid of Obamacare, passed another tax cut, and did one or two other things. I bet their approval rating would go up 25 points.
Yeah, probably.
And they just won't do it. They're just they're just too hard. I mean, Congress hasn't done anything since the tax cuts last fall.
Yeah.
Name one thing they've done. The president's been trying. He tried to reach a deal on DACA. He tried to reach an immigration deal. He's put North Korea on it, which I think is going to you were going to see this a little bit more. So, it's...
Well, they did bring in Zucks for the old grilling. They got that done.
Well, bottom line is you got to stand for something, and you got to give, to me, there's no reason to reelect people who aren't going to stand on something. And I understand there's compromises sometimes, but how many times, Jay, does a bill come up and it doesn't pass the first time? It doesn't pass the next session. But the third, we saw this with Sunday liquor sales. Remember, the first time that was voted on, it was like 80-20 no, like in 2012 or something like that. Well, it came up, and what? 5 years later, it became law. Some new representatives were part of it, but some people changed their minds on it.
Yeah,
it's a freedom issue. Yeah, it's a business issue. It's employing people, and people looked at it with a new perspective. So things can change if they get pushed, but
that's the thing. I mean, it really doesn't matter if your bill is going to pass. What matters is that you're attempting to pass the things that you said you were going to do. And if something is bad, you try to get rid of it. And we always give ground. It's like we never go after Planned Parenthood. We never go after the Met Council. We never go after these things.
Any amendment other than the second. Well, and here's the other thing too. I want to put the other side on the defensive. I want to take the Met Council and bring it around their necks.
Yeah,
that's what I want. If you want to sit there and defend the Met Council, I'll run against that all day long.
Yeah,
and again, that could be done.
It could be. It could be done easily. I want to see the bills to start dismantling this or reducing the scope and powers. It can be done incrementally. It doesn't have to be a big sweeping, let's just get rid of it today. You're going to have a graveyard of buses you got to figure out what to do with and all that kind of stuff.
Again, Metro Transit can act as its separate entity. It doesn't need the Met Council over it.
Right.
We had transit before 1967. It was run by the county or Minneapolis or whoever. It's a little different now because the suburbs have expanded so much. Yeah. But you don't have to have Metro Transit under the Met Council's umbrella.
No, you don't.
I'm not saying we should have no buses, okay?
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we don't need the big government overreach above that. I just think that it's just such an opportunity being missed, and it's been missed for a long, long time, and it's frustrating, and I don't know what to do anymore about it. I mean, what do you want to bet come the end of the session? Met Council's fully funded. There's not a single change. And then we're going to hear on the campaign trail again how much they want to get rid of the Met Council.
Right. Yeah, we'll hear all about it, but we won't.
It's not even a broken record. Yeah. That's too nice of a way to put it. It's not a broken record. It's a broken, soundstage. So, opportunities being missed. Again, I said I like Congressman Lewis. It's not personal. I don't want anybody to think I'm trashing him. I mean, that's not my intent. I just think that there's. You talk about incremental. I mean, we have an income tax in Minnesota since 1933.
Right.
Probably won't get rid of that in a week.
No.
But we can reduce rates.
Yeah.
We can make things like clothes that aren't taxable. We can incrementally bring that down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I think that Representative Lewis is doing this with the right intentions. I think that he believes that this is a good reform. I think that he believes that there has been no reform, and we need
He's right about that.
And we need to bring it into compliance with everything else, at least. And it's a good first step. But like I had mentioned, and you had mentioned, it could very well take the steam out of the argument for people that want to get rid of it.
Well, and the other thing, too, is he's almost handing Minnesotans in the legislature a softball. Look, I'm going to do the work for you to reform the government part.
Right.
You need to work. Technically, I'm not sure that the federal government can tell the Met Council, hey, you can't have anything to do with housing. Well, Minnesota law says you can.
Right. Well, and that's it. It is Minnesota law.
It's a two-pronged thing.
The federal law has to deal with putting it's all about transit and transportation for the most part. And those
there
are
is
the big
housing
things
involved in it.
Well,
too,
that's not mandated, though. I mean, you have to establish a setting, your core functions, establish a setting, evaluate the transportation
the
alternatives.
Get that anyway, too.
Yep, you have to maintain a regional transportation plan, develop a transportation improvement program, involve the public, and then protect air quality. Those are the 6 core functions of a metropolitan planning organization. Now, there are expanded functions, which I believe are those that are granted by the states, because in some regions they're allowed to do set urban growth boundaries, distributing housing need allocation, manage the growth, ensure affordable housing, and operate the region's public transportation services, which, of course, ours does all of the above. Because, yeah.
But those were acts of the Minnesota State Legislature,
absolutely,
not the federal government.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a mess, folks.
It is.
And you check out my article on it at Community Solutions. Jay, what's the website?
COMMsolutionsmn.com.
Yeah, I only know the old ones.
Oh, boy. COMMsolutionsmn.com. That's the website. So that's how to find this. Right now it is up at the top. That'll probably change by that time, but won't be too far down the list of articles. It is called Jason Lewis's Met Council Reform Bill is Wrong-Headed. We Need Elimination, Not Reform. That is the name of the article, so you can find that way. And I tell you that we've got some issues in the state to get through, and I want to see success. I want to see us move in the right direction. Anytime that we seem to get into the negotiating game, we end up on the losing end, and we end up with government that is at least a little bit bigger than it was before. We need to figure out how to get to negotiate to where government's even just a little bit smaller than it was before. If not, getting rid of things completely that are just terrible. And I would like to see that things are going to change. Will they? I don't know. That's the question.
I tell you what, I don't want to have to change all this when I'm governor. I'd like to have some of this done for me.
Well, one way that we can do that is by all of you alerting us to what's going on in your communities.
No matter how bad it is, trust me, we've seen something worse.
That's
so
true.
Send it to us.
That's true. I mean, unless you live in St. Louis Park, because that is the worst we're talking about.
Right. That's the mecca of bad.
So send us your stuff. If you're interested in running for something, we'd love to talk to you. Hey, June 1st and 2nd, I believe that we're going to be in the Duluth area. If you want to set up a one-on-one with us, and talk about possibly running for an office, we'd love to sit down with you.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think I'm going to camp outside.
Is that how? Yeah, we're going to just put something up in the parking lot.
I think so. My truck's big enough. I can.
Yeah, maybe we can sneak on to the ore ship that's docked next door to the deck down there.
Never works.
Yeah. But you can get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com with all of that stuff. If you want to talk to us when we're up in Duluth with y'all. Otherwise, we're going to be reporting on things up there. Get a hold of us there. Social media, you can find us. Same things, commsolutionsmn. And we will be sure to get back in touch with you. Otherwise, spread this podcast far and wide, because we want people to know what is up in this state, because it's only when they get frustrated enough with the status quo that we're going to start seeing change happen. And we need 20,000 people strong, a farm team across the state, making Minnesota the best that it can be, because until we take back things at the local level, we are not going to see that change. And that is a promise. So with all of that, you've got a big job to do. Have us come out and speak to groups, because I think that you will find out that things are worse in your area than you know. We'll do some research and we'll tell you all about it. But until we do that, there is plenty that you can do: podcasting, blogging, writing letters to the editor, just getting involved in advisory commissions. We've done our part, but we love you, Minnesota, and it's your turn to get to work.
If I get too